Gravity Falls. This cartoon has been acclaimed as one of the best products of Western animation in decades, and has won the support of children and man-children alike. In its 40-episode run, the show covers mythical creatures with various abilities, personalities, and other traits that are really memorable, ranging from gnomes to unicorns to, whatever you'd call this thing. Today I'm going to analyze and theorize about some of these creatures and their origins, not only because I'm a crazy nerd with too much time on his hands, but because I've had a curiosity about this stuff ever since I first watched Gravity Falls. I tried to focus on the less generic and more seemingly original characters here, so while I'm certainly going to be talking about Bill Cipher, I'm not going to be deconstructing the cultural heritage of Schmebulok. So, without further ado, here's 5 mythical creatures from Gravity Falls and their origins, a title I couldn't figure out how to cut down. Let's get started. First up is Mermando, the 12-year-old merman found at a public pool after being caught by fishermen and removed from his home in the Gulf of Mexico.
I was swimming with my friends, the mighty dolphins, in the Gulf of Mexico, when I was ensnared.
Earl, did we just catch ourselves some kind of beautiful man-fish?
Let's feast on his flesh.
Mermen have a pretty varied cultural background, and stories about them can be found in Greek, Irish, Chinese, Finnish, and Amazon mythology. To start out with some of the less certain stuff, Greek mermen had seaweed-like hair, a beard, and a trident, like Poseidon. Although he doesn't have a trident, and since he's only 12, Mermando's beard is more of a sweat stash, this might be where his flowing hair comes from. Shifting forward in history a bit, mermen in medieval Europe were blamed for maritime storms, and Chinese mythology connects mermen with storms as well. This might have something to do with why Mermando was caught during a storm, but we're really just scratching the surface so far. Randomly enough, a good amount of Mermando's character can be traced to Finland. Let me introduce you to the Niki, merpeople that live in small bodies of water inland, like wells, docks, and rivers, like how Mermando lives in a swimming pool. Niki are known to lure children into these places, and I think it's safe to say that this is exactly what Mermando did with Mabel, bringing her to the pool every day for a while. Niki are also beautiful from the front, but have ugly, hairy backs as sort of a tip-off for them being evil. Have you ever met a decent person who isn't good-looking? I didn't think so. Mermando is a dreamy preteen from the angle we see him most, but what could be under his hair? We're getting into kind of shady territory here, and the more you learn about the Niki, the less they seem like an allegory for a cute Latin kid. Above all, Niki are evil shapeshifters that drown children, and they were really just a way for Norse moms to warn their kids not to play somewhere dangerous, so it's not a perfect parallel. Unless we go to the Vetahinen. The Vetahinen is basically the friendly neighborhood pharmacist of the Niki. It dabbles in potions to cure the sick, and it's much less into, child murder. More intriguingly, the Vetahinen sometimes causes unintended harm out of curiosity for human life. Mermando does exactly this. He shows curiosity for Mabel and other humans, and he causes unintended harm when Mabel releases him into the lake. Dipper loses his job as a lifeguard and some pool equipment because of it. The last and most Mermando-ish mermen are the Amazon Botos, seductive Latin mermen that make human women fall in love with them. Sound familiar? Okay, granted, Boto impregnate these women to produce disgusting fish babies, but come on. Sort of on that note, mermen, like mermaids, have been known to seduce women with their beautiful voices and music. Lots of notable mermen are musical, from sirens to conch players. Mermando knows 3 chords on the guitar and has a sexy accent. Case closed.
There are some who call me Mermando. This is because Mermando is my name.
Next, we're talking about everyone's favorite John DiMaggio character, Love God.
Woo! Who's ready to fall in love tonight? Love God! That's what they call me.
It's pretty clear that he's based on a cherub, a humanoid creature found in lots of religious texts. In the Bible, Torah, and Quran, cherubs are usually carrying out God's work somehow. Their original duty was guarding the garden of Eden, where Adam and Eve fell in love, and were later seen as messengers. But the similarities end there. Since cherubs often take non-human forms and don't really do human emotion, we can turn to the Roman love god Cupid instead. The god turned into a Valentine's baby, Cupid represents love, affection, and attraction, and is probably Love God's clearest inspiration. Both of them make people fall in love through some magic, Cupid with arrows and Love God with potions. On a lesser note, they're fat and know how to fly. But Love God is an adult, modernized Cupid with a music career.
Oh, hey, what's up? Here, have a cassette.
These changes could be from a writing perspective to make him fit better in a music festival, or they may go deeper. It turns out that the young Roman Cupid isn't the only one. His Greek counterpart, Eros, was sometimes shown as an adult embodying sexual ability. Love God's form doesn't quite show this, but that's something. As for his music career, Eros sometimes carried a lyre? Again, it isn't much, but it makes some sense that Love God could be a modernized, grown Cupid who's had too many chili fries and started a semi-successful band.
Love God? Sound check for Love God?
Oh, let's make some miracles happen. Groupies, bedhead me.
On the topic of Greek mythology, it's pretty clear that manitors are based on minotaurs.
Can't believe it. Part animal, part human. Are you some kind of minotaur?
I'm a minotaur! Half man, half Tour!
Their name is a pun on Minotaur, they've got the bullman characteristics, and they're both weirdly exclusively men. Interestingly enough, it wasn't until 20th century fantasy fiction that Minotaurs were viewed as a species of creature. It used to just be one guy. These Greek texts also didn't say which part of the Minotaur was a man and which part a bull, so people just guessed that the Minotaur had a bull's head with a man's body, and sometimes going against this guess resulted in these funky reverse Minotaurs that looked like they would just creep out centaur women at the bar. But I digress. Moving on from how it looks, the Minotaur also needs regular sacrifices to stay at bay. Think of how Minotaurs sacrifice, that old one to Lidorar. Minotaur's hypermasculinity can probably just be explained about how frickin' manly the Minotaur is. It's a creature with a huge ripped body that fights stuff for a living, demands sacrifice, and is basically always angry. From this, it's pretty logical to assume that Alex Hirsch just took a bunch of these creatures, made them into a fraternity, and played them for stupid guy jokes up for an episode about Dipper's masculinity.
He's a human. I don't like him. I don't like your face!
I like these guys.
In this same episode, we're introduced to the multi-bear, which I think is a really sneaky Hydra reference.
What is a multi-bear?
Oh, that's a multi-bear. The connection between the Hydra and the multi-bear isn't really clear, but hear me out. The Hydra is a serpent monster from Greek mythology. It's multi-headed, the exact number is unknown, and it gains more heads as you cut them off and can only be killed by fire. Hercules killed the Hydra as the second of his 12 labors, a set of challenges set for him to prove his abilities. While it's a bit weird that the multi-bear isn't at all close to a snake, lots of similarities are at work here. Dipper was sent by the Manitors to kill the multi-bear and prove himself, just like Hercules with the Hydra. Nobody seems to really know how many heads the multi-bear has.
There's like, what, six heads?
And the multi-bear's greatest weakness is his rejection from society for his interest in Baba, some fire music.
His weakness is fire!
Following that, here's the big one. Bill Cipher, the series' main antagonist and most powerful character.
Oh, Gravity Falls, it is good to be back! Name's Bill Cipher!
Able to transcend space and time, enter people's minds through dreams, possess bodies, and perform all kinds of weird tricks, Bill seems to have no limit to his abilities. It's pretty clear that he takes his form from the Eye of Providence on the dollar bill. Wait. Bill. Hold on, I seriously hadn't noticed that before. I've been a fan of the show for like 4 years and that never hit me. This triangle with a single eye at its center is exactly what Bill looks like, once you add the hat, tie, and cane. It's like the Illuminati's symbol had a night of passion with Mr. Peanut and the result grew up to be a monster from the 4th dimension. Anyway, let's go a bit more in depth on what the Eye of Providence represents in the real world. Appearing on a lot of different government documents, it's supposed to be the Eye of God, surrounded by a bright light and intended to show a greater power watching you. Since Renaissance times, it's been used as Christian religious symbolism. It's been on the Great Seal of the U.S. since 1782, and the version of it we see on the dollar is at the top of a 13-stepped pyramid, representing room for growth in the country after the establishment of the 13 colonies. It appears in a divine light under the motto Anno et Ceptis, or Providence approves our undertakings. It's on a ton of other U.S. symbols too, including the state seal of the great state of Colorado and DARPA's Information Awareness Office. The eye not only represents a greater benevolent power, but it knows everything.
Oh, I know lots of things.
Lots of things.
Weirdly enough, its use doesn't end in the US. It's on a couple coats of arms in Lithuania, Belarus, and Poland, and can be found on Estonian and Ukrainian currency, but this Eastern European influence is getting off track. So, with what we know about the real, totally factual side of the Eye of Providence, we can show some parallels to Bill. He's undoubtedly a reference to the eye on the dollar, complete with his triangle enclosing him and the pyramid below him. Bill is constantly reminding us of his mental power and his ability to see the future. He's omniscient like God. He has as many hidden symbols in Gravity Falls as the Eye of Providence has in the real world, giving the same sense of always being present and watching. It's alluded to many times in the series that Bill is watching the characters through some hidden outposts. But Bill goes far beyond holding all information and seeing the past, present, and future. His powers go to the world of dreams, possession, and the ability to shift through space and time that aren't explained by all this practical, totally true mumbo-jumbo. It's time for us to turn to the Illuminati. If you head over to the official website of the Illuminati, yes, they have one, you'll see that the cult's message spreads to 4 main points. These are the pyramid, the eye, the light, and the eternal. The pyramid represents money as an ambiguous force that can be used for good or evil. Bill Cipher could be seen as a representation of this. His power has no predestined alignment of good or evil, but as people do with money, Bill uses his abilities to put himself in power, with his end goal being to take over the world as we see him do in Weirdmageddon. The eye represents exactly the same thing as the Eye of Providence, an all-powerful force that grows omniscient by watching everything. Bill has access to basically all information ever, explained by his various eyes around Gravity Falls. The light represents what the Illuminati calls supernatural changes in the physical realm, or what are basically miracles. Any radical, positive change is explained as evidence for the light in the Illuminati. Wherever Bill goes, he brings with him this supernatural change, but it's not as benevolent as what the Illuminati describe. Nonetheless, the light can still be seen in Bill, as he completely changes his environment when revealing his powers, by removing the teeth of a deer, shuffling the functions of the holes on someone's face, or creating a waterfall of blood. Man, this really is a kid's show approved by Disney. The final element of the Illuminati's worship is the Eternal. This represents the intricate perfection of the universe and how every member of it is vital to the way things turn out. Essentially, without the existence of every person being exactly as it is, the world would be radically different. This focus on the power of the individual doesn't quite go to Bill, but to the cipher wheel. This set of symbols circled around Bill is a staple of the series, with each symbol representing a character in the show or a characteristic of someone. These exact people are needed together in a specific order to defeat Bill and save the world from his chaos. For once, the Illuminati's claim to be a great organization has a parallel here. Without the eternal qualities of these people, or the circumstances that brought them to Gravity Falls, Bill could never be defeated, and the world would be sent into a permanent state of Weirdmageddon. As the founders of the Illuminati will tell you, everyone has some divine purpose in the universe. Whether you're an acclaimed scientist who's helped to collect information on terrifying and powerful creatures, or some angsty teen with a vendetta against a 12-year-old. So, 2,500 words later, those are some of the explanations for the mythical creatures in Gravity Falls. Starting this video, I didn't think I'd be spending a stupid amount of time on the Illuminati's webpage or scouring a Wikipedia page called Notable Mermen, but I had a lot of fun with this, and I hope you did too. I might consider doing more videos like this in the future if I have the time and energy for it, so if you want me to do that, let me know in the comments. Thanks again for listening to me drone on, and I'll see you in the next one.